Hello and welcome everyone to Love Local. My name is Kirsten. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the workshop coordinator here at the Minnesota Center for Book Arts. We're so grateful to have you here with us today for our virtual event, Love Local. I hope you're having a good afternoon or whatever time of day it may be where you're zooming in from. Before I pass things over to Madeline Garcia, who will be teaching you how to make 3 fun holiday cards, I want to briefly give you some information about MCBA, this event, and how the Zoom meeting will be used. Minnesota Center for Book Arts is a 36-year-old nonprofit arts center with studios and offices in the Open Book Building in downtown Minneapolis. Our mission is to ignite artistic practice, inspire learning, and foster diverse creative communities through the book arts. We do this by creating access to specialized book arts tools, equipment, and knowledge, supporting interdisciplinary artistic development, expanding opportunities for people who have been historically underrepresented in the field, and presenting exhibitions and educational programs that create connections around the art of the book, promote innovation, and advance the future of the field. Love Local is an open house style event that was originally hosted in MCBA's studios, but which we're glad to offer virtually so we can engage with so many folks both near and far. I want to share that this activity is made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a Minnesota State Arts Board Operating Support Grant, thanks to a legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Thank you again for joining us. Now I'll hand things over to teaching artist Madeline Garcia.
Hi, Kirsten. Thank you so much for that warm introduction, and thank you all for tuning into Zoom for this very special lesson today. So I've come up with 3 amazing cards for us to make together today, and I will just show those off momentarily. So the first one is a window pop-out card, like you can see here, my overhead. Can open up, and then I have a little snowscape here. Something important to note is that all of these cards are customizable, so you don't have to make them look like mine at all. I'm just showing you the basic structures of the cards. So here is the first one. The second one is called a cross fold card, and it just opens up like so. And so I guess it resembles a cross. And it folds up just like this. I love this structure. I feel like it's the perfect structure to pass on a little note to someone in. And it has that awesome reveal when it's opened all the way. And the last one is this tree pop-out card. So before we get to making these, let's go over what tools you will need. I have on my desk, and hopefully you have on your table as well, a bone folder or other folding tool. We'll use this to fold all of the paper today and do some scoring. You can also use a spoon or a ruler or maybe a popsicle stick. Yeah. I also have a pair of scissors and an X-Acto knife. And if you are one of my younger friends, there's a good chance that you should maybe have an adult help you with this tool. I also have a pencil and a glue stick. You could also use double-sided tape. If you are going to use a glue stick, hopefully you have some waste sheets on hand to keep your station and your cards clean. And then also a ruler. I like to use rulers with right angles. But you don't need to. And hopefully everyone can see my overhead camera.
Yes, it looks great.
Okay, cool. And then you will also need some paper. I will just go ahead and start with the cut pieces of paper you'll need for our first book. Great, glad everyone can see. We're gonna start with that window pop-out card. And I'm calling them books and cards interchangeably. I think this is all related, and cards are also a part of book arts. So to make this, you'll need 2 pieces of paper. You'll need a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of cardstock. This is going to be the outer cover. And then you'll need a smaller piece of paper to be the insert. Mine is blue, so I have that backdrop inside the window. And this is 4 inches by 5.25 inches.
Madeline, I just want to really quickly mention that we are recording this today, and the recording will be available through the MCBA website, likely early next week.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. So today, ideally, you will fold along with me, but you can always revisit this video, share it with friends, or if you don't get to finish your cards, come back to it and hopefully make some more. Awesome. So to that note, for this lesson, I will demonstrate it and then I'll leave you a little bit of time to follow up and repeat the steps. So for this book, the first thing that we'll do is to fold our cover in half. This is the 5.5 by 8.5 piece of paper. And we are going to fold it in half, hamburger style, if that means anything to some of you. And so the method that I use for folding always is the hold and fold. So I'm holding one side of the piece of paper down so that it doesn't move around and curling the other side over. I'm going to spend some time making sure that my corners line up. I want this card to be as precise and neat as possible, and hopefully you'll take that time to do the same as well. The next thing I'll do is slide my finger over and crease the fold. Wonderful. And then I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm holding it just like so with 4 fingers on one side, a thumb on the other, and I'm just going to go up and down that spine. Just like so. So go ahead and do the same. Fold your cover in half, just like this. At this point, you can already start to see how this smaller piece of paper can be inserted in here, just like this. Maybe you can already start to see how this really soon will transform into this. So the next part of this card is to sort of decide what you would like your windows to look like. So I want to bring in a few other examples that I made. I have 2 that are sort of this oval arch style window, which I think is really fun. But you could always also do a more rectangular square window. For this example, I actually glued the cover down, and my thought was that you could write a note on the back. So there's lots of ways you could customize this card. I think for today, I might do 2 windows that open that have rectangular panels. So we're going to open our card up, and on the left side here, we're going to sketch out our window. So go ahead and take your ruler and find the center of this half. So I'm going to make a little hatch mark at 2 1/8 inches, and this is just the center. And then from here, you can sort of start to sketch out what your window would look like. And I'm going to do this in darker pencil so that everyone can see. One note I do have is that you won't want half of your window to be larger than 1 inch, because if you do, these are going to extend past the width of your card. So I'm actually just going to measure 1 inch from each side on the top and the bottom of my window pane. And you'll notice I'm being a little bit messy, a little bit dark here. I'm going to erase this, and it is going to be in the inside of the card, so it won't be that visible. And so the last part of the window would be the sides, but we are not actually going to cut those. This will be the folded part that attaches part of the window. So go ahead and leave those. So all of you should have something that looks like an eye At this point, maybe yours is a little bit different since we're customizing our cards here. And the next step is to just cut along these lines. So this is where our X-Acto knife comes in. I'm going to use a ruler, but you could also just freehand this cut. So go ahead and cut along those pencil marks we just made. And then while everyone is doing that, I'm just going to erase my pencil. Go ahead and do the same if you want to, if it bothers you. And from here, you can start to see how these two panels are going to pop out on the front to resemble a window. To get a nice crisp fold there, I'm actually going to score along these lines here. So I'm just going to take my ruler and line it up on that area that would be the edge of the window here. And there's two ways that you can score. You can use your bone folder to run along this, and I'll just do one of each method. So I'm just giving that some pressure. You can see there's a little crease here, or you can take your X-Acto knife. This one is a little more risky, and just do a light mark across. Maybe if you have a new blade to your X-Acto knife, there is a chance that you might cut it all the way. So go delicately here. And then returning to the front of the book, these windows should open right on that crease. And you can see that the card is starting to come together. I'll wait just a moment and we'll move on to the next step. The next step is going to be to glue our insert into the card. So I have a waste sheet out and I'm going to use my glue. You could use double-sided tape for this part as well. Moving on, I'm going to apply a nice thin layer of glue to the back of this insert and slide it inside so it's on this back half of the card. Your insert should be a little bit smaller than this, so you should have a nice little margin there. And I'm going to use my bone folder in the third way already. Wow, this card is really showing us all the ways to use it. And that is to adhere the piece of paper to the card. So I'm just using the bone folder to press it down and get any air bubbles out and make sure that it's nice and secure. So voila, this is it. It's pretty simple and customizable, like I've said. And you can see here with these examples how much customization really adds to it. And I have this more complex example here. Like I said with this one, once you add your scenery or do whatever it is you want to do for this background, you can glue this cover in here if you want maybe a more sturdy card. I bet this could even function as a postcard in the mail, and you could always write your message on the back. I think for me, I was thinking of gluing in some snowflakes here and leaving the card open. Another idea you could do is to have a message at the bottom that wouldn't be visible from the front. So I'm just going to give folks one more minute to finish up this book up to these steps. I would hope that you would decorate it and embellish it after the lesson so that you're able to spend some more time with this. But really simple and adaptable. I could even imagine making this card for once every season, because as much as I love beautiful snow, there's a lot of other sceneries that I prefer more. So I'm going to set this card aside and get out the supplies for our next card. And that is the cross-fold card. And for this, you're going to need one sheet of paper, so convenient, and that paper will be 8 1/4 by 8 1/4 inches. So I'll just wait another moment for everyone to grab that. And I'll show a few more examples while we're waiting. So I think this is my favorite example. It says, I hope 2022, that's a mouthful, brings you. And then on each of these panels, I just wrote one word. So creativity, joy, health, peace, new perspective, luck, fun, and everything else you wish for. I think this card would be especially sweet for colleagues or handing people in person because the size is just so, it's great. It fits in your hand and you can carry it around you in your pocket as well. Also made one for Hanukkah. There's only, I think, 2 more nights, but you could still have time to make this and pass it to someone. And then just a happy holidays one. And I love the idea of the center panel having room for a message. This one I just wrote Happy Hanukkah on each panel because I did not want to draw more, but the choice is yours. So let's start on making this book card, the cross-fold card. The first thing we're going to do is divide a piece of paper into thirds. I know 8 1/4 is sort of an odd measurement, but I did that so we would have 3 sections of 2 3/4. So the first thing we'll do is to get our ruler out and mark those sections out. So with your ruler and your pencil from the edge, you're going to mark 2 3/4. And I'm just going to do 2 3/4 from the other side as well. So I have 2 marks here. They're a bit hard to see. And now I have 3 sections that are each 2 3/4. I'm going to rotate this piece of paper 90 degrees and do the same this way. So go ahead and do that. The next thing we'll do is to score along these lines. And the way that I like to do that with thick cardstock paper is by using an X-Acto knife. That method I showed earlier, just by dragging it along your line super lightly. So I'll do that here, right along our score mark. But you could also use your phone folder, whatever is easiest for you to score. And at this point, since I've made those scores, I'm going to go ahead and erase my pencil mark. And then what you'll do is rotate your card and make the same marks going the other way.
Madeline, do you have a specific paper weight that you like to use for making these cards?
I just use, truthfully, whatever is available that is cardstock. So just a bit thicker than printer paper so that the card holds up. Sorry, I don't have some numerical perfect answer or precise answer. So at this point, your sheet of paper should look something like this. You can start to see those 9 sections. Go ahead and fold your creases so that it starts looking like this, and you can sort of see how this card comes together. The next part is kind of sad. We are going to remove the 4 panels in the corners out so that we're left with something like this. So I'm just going to draw some X's in those corners as a guide to where I'm going to cut. And I'm going to cut these 4 squares out. These little scraps we're going to get would be great to embellish one of your other cards. So I certainly wouldn't throw them in the recycling bin quite yet. So go ahead and start cutting the card. You could also use your X-Acto knife for this. It all just depends on what you're most comfortable with, what's easiest for you. And then we are left with this cross or X. You can, from here, sort of see how these panels fold up and into each other, but we'll do one more step to make sure that they slide really easily or close easily. And that step is just to make them a little bit smaller, so round them off. So I normally just like to cut a little sliver off of each of these. Just like this, so that the card fits within this center square a little bit easier. So go ahead and do that. There's no precise measurement here. Something you could also do style-wise, like I've done in this example, is to round your corners. Also, if you wanted, you don't even have to make these square. You could make them more ovular, like petals. You could make them starry, like the top of a tree. I have Christmas on my mind, but I know that not everyone celebrates that. So go ahead and just trim off the sides. Around these edges. If you were not so precise with your measurements, there is a chance that you might need to trim off a little bit from the bottom of this as well. I think I'm okay so far, but feel free to be really creative in shaping these pages. One more side. And you can sort of test and see how yours is folding. I think mine is a bit too long here. So I'll just trim this a bit. That means I made one of my sections too long when I was scoring, which is totally fine. So as everyone is finishing this up and trimming their cards, I think I will start to talk through what I'm planning to do with this card, just to give some ideas and inspiration. I cut out these stars earlier, and I was thinking about adding a little star to each section, and writing a little note or a wish for someone. So I'm going to glue on one of these as the cover, as everyone is just finishing up. And here is the start of my cross-fold card. And I'll show those examples a few more times. I love how chaotic my desk is already becoming after 2 cards. That's a good sign of good crafting. So here I left a long section for a note. So you can definitely write a lot in this card if you feel more comfortable with writing as opposed to drawing. Or you can draw on every panel if that's more your style. And like I said, with the window pop-out card, I think the format of this card would work for any holiday, any occasion. Maybe it's someone's birthday and they're young, so there's one panel for each year. Their life is up to you. So I'm going to clear my desk and get set up for our last card. And this is going to be the tree pop-out card. That card is also fairly simple in that it only requires one piece of paper, and that is a 5.5 by 11 sheet paper. I'm also using a little bit thicker paper for this. This is like a light cardstock. And I'm going to hold on to these because maybe I can reuse them. And I gotta cap my glue stick so I don't dry it out. A must. So I will once again show my samples for this book. So this is a tree pop-out card, and it is a take on an accordion book, but it has this panel here. It doesn't fold. And yeah, I just love the way this card functions, and there's many little nooks and crannies for different notes. It's also sculptural and a great card to like set on a mantle or a table, maybe a desk if you send it to someone at their work. And I have one more example of this card. I just wrote Happy Holidays and drew one, and then left this whole back panel for a longer note. So this structure is maybe the most complex. I don't know that that's actually just as involved as the last 2 cards, but it does start with some measuring like we've done. So I'm laying out a ruler on top of my piece of paper longwise, and we're going to make a few more measurements like we just did. The first measurement is starting from the left. We're going to make a little hatch at 2 inches. Mine is a bit darker so that you at home can see it, but it doesn't need to be. It will eventually be erased. From this hatch, we're going to measure 2.5 inches over. So I have one mark at 2 inches, one mark at 2.5 inches from that, or 4.5 from the side. And then one last third mark that's 2.5 inches from this one. So 7 inches from the side. I'm doing quick math here. Okay. So your card should look something like this so far. So to get this accordion structure, we're going to do some scoring and folding, and I'll go over that measurement one more time. So we have 2 inches here, 2.5 inches, and 2.5 inches. Thank you for clarifying that. So I'm going to keep the paper laying down for all of the scoring and folding so as not to confuse everyone. Go ahead and take your ruler and set it on the right side of this first mark here, so that there's just 2 inches of paper here. And I'm going to take my finger and run it along this crease while holding my ruler in position. So we're actually just folding this section upwards, just like that. Once again, I just had my ruler on the right-hand side of this hash mark, and I just lifted this first tab of the card up. I'm going to erase this pencil mark now. We have something that looks like this. I'm also going to use my bone folder just to go over this fold. Make it nice and crisp. Great. This is a funny looking book at the moment. And in just a moment, we're going to do the same thing to this third mark here. And this time we're going to put our ruler on the left-hand side of the mark. Clear camera. We're going to hold it down and run our finger along the right-hand side of the card, just like so. So we should have something very exciting here, just like this. And we can go ahead and bone fold that fold. So we have something that looks just like this. I'm going to go in and erase my pencil mark because I'm looking clean and neat currently. Great. So I have a 2-inch section here and and something around a 4-inch section here. On this last, and that was my phone. Let's see. Okay, great. On this last hash mark here, we're actually going to sketch out our tree before we do our folding, and you'll see why very soon. So I have this example here as a guide. You'll notice that we're going to actually fold the other way, but we want to fold around our tree shape. So the easiest way that I found to do this is to line up our ruler on the left-hand side of our hash mark here. And then to sketch out half of the tree on this right side. The ruler isn't needed, but it just sort of helps me. So in this example, I have just like a nice straight triangular tree. If you wanted, you could also get curly and wavy and do something more intricate like this. Choice is up to you. So I think I'll go for something like that. And then I'm gonna leave room for a stump. The important part is to leave a bit of space on the top and the bottom of the tree, like I've done here, and that is so the card can stay intact and there's some area we can fold here. So once again, you'll want to sketch out half of your tree, leaving some space on the top and the bottom, and I will make mine a bit darker so everyone can see it. All right, maybe you guessed it because you all are catching on to all this book arts by now. We are going to use our X-Acto knife and to cut along the silhouette or half silhouette of our tree. We are not going to cut the top and the bottom part because we need that to keep our card intact. So at your own pace and being as safe as you can, go ahead and cut out the silhouette, the shape of your tree. Also, maybe you don't want a stump. I didn't include them on here, and I sort of like the simple and graphic quality to this one. Just gonna make sure all of my cuts lined up. Looks like I need to connect them a bit. So I'm going to be careful not to fold my card quite yet, but you can start to see that shape of the tree that's going to come alive very soon. I'm going to go ahead and erase my pencil marks to make it a little bit cleaner. And you can always decorate your tree and hide some of those pencil marks as well. All right. So for this next step, we are actually going to score the top and the bottom here, just like in this example, but we are going to have to flip our card around to the other side to do so that it folds upwards. So I'm just going to take my ruler and line it up, starting with the top of the tree and where I left the stump here. They should be in line. If yours is not that way and you want to just double check, you can measure 2.5 inches over from either side. And that'll be your line. So I'm just going to score the top and the bottom part. Not cutting. I know we just did some cutting. And that should allow your card to fold forward, just like so. So I will repeat those steps once more since I know that was a little bit involved. We had our tree here and we flipped it around to the back side. And we scored the top and the bottom, right here and right here. I did it with an X-Acto knife, but you also could have done it with your bone folder. Folded in the card opening like this. I think for this one, I might want to color this in or maybe add a piece of paper on top of it. Looks a little bit curious, a little bit interesting with nothing on it. You can't exactly tell that it's a tree. And it looks like my tree extends out a little bit, which I sort of like. For embellishing this tree, I will really briefly just show how I would get another additional piece of paper this shape. So I would just trace along these edges and then cut it out, which I can do right now. I guess that would.
Is there a reason you didn't score and fold the first two folds?
These ones?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's not. I just wanted to not flip the piece of paper upside down and back too many times. But once you get the hang of this card, or once you feel more comfortable with the measurements, you can certainly do that. Yeah. Yeah, sorry if that was more confusing than it was worth. And here are those two examples. I'm happy to answer any more questions anyone has. Oh, Liz asked that in the chat. Great. If anyone has any remaining questions about this card structure, or maybe card making or book making in general.
What is your favorite card structure?
Oh. I just love pop outs of all kinds. Yeah, I think.
There's a question, how do you size the full tree for the folding section?
Yes, okay. So what I would do, and I started doing it, is to make a guide that is half of the tree. And then I would just so now I have half here. I would just double this, so you could either fold your pieces of paper in half and cut that out, or trace it again and flip it over. I'm sure there are also a few other ways to do this that other people will think of. I think you could also probably just put a piece of paper on top and cut along here. Maybe that would be most simple. So like, getting really crafty real quick. And maybe, oh, here's what I would do and what I did in the past. Have a piece of paper that is the rough size of the tree and trace on the back side of this here. And then I would add and draw the other side. Did that make sense? Hopefully. Since your tree doesn't have to be symmetrical, since most natural trees are not. Cutting this. Should go right on top. Wow, definitely need some ornaments here. Anyway, any other last questions? Hopefully this was relatively easy to follow and you don't have any questions because you're just so excited to keep embellishing and working on these and sending them off.
If you didn't want your tree to poke over the edge of the card when it's folded,
yes.
Do you have any recommendations on how to measure that?
Yes, and this is something I forgot to say while we were making it. So when you lay your card flat, you'll notice here there's a little section in between this second fold and the edge. And for me and for you, that's about 1.5 inches. So if you wanted your tree to stay within the width of your card, I would keep it under 1.5 inches. And you could also find that by just subtracting the width of this from this last section. Awesome. Well, thank you all for asking such great questions and for folding along with me. Hopefully you're feeling inspired and are off to make more cards and books.
Thank you so much, Madeline. And thanks to everyone once again for joining us. We would love to see your cards, so please feel free to email images to workshops@mnbookarts.org or post them online and tag MN Book Arts. If you enjoyed today's Love Local event, I encourage you to sign up for adult workshops with MCBA. A full slate of in-person and virtual workshops in January and February will be released next Saturday, December 11th. Virtual fold-along videos are also available on our website. You can fold along with Madeline and make some sweet book structures. I'll be putting the links into the Zoom chat for you so you can find all of these different things on our website. You can also visit the website to become an MCBA member or visit our online shop. Thank you all, a happy winter, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you all.